A very good morning to my dear students. Once again, welcome back to 8th grade English class. Today we are actually going with the third chapter under the fourth unit. Yeah, we are actually going with the poem which is included in the fourth unit, The Ants at the Olympics. The Ants at the Olympics is a very interesting poem written by Richard Dickens. As the title indicates, the poem is all about the Olympics held at jungles. If you go through the images, you can easily guess how funny the poem will be. But you have to understand or you have to note the other thing that even though it may seem as a funny poem, the poem poses a very important and a very valuable message. Okay, anyway, let us go to the poem to find out what is actually the message conveyed through this funny and interesting poem by Richard Dickens. Anyway, let us read the poem first. So listen, I am going to read the entire poem. Please read with me. Okay. The Ants at the Olympics by Richard Dickens. At last year's Jungle Olympics, the ants were completely outclassed. In fact, from an entry of 62 teams, the ants came their usual last. They didn't win one single medal. Not that that's surprise. The reason was not for lack of trying, but more for their unfortunate size. While the cheetahs won most of the sprinting and the hippos won putting the shot, the ants tried sprinting but couldn't and tried to put but could not. It was sad for the ants because they are sloggers. They turn out for every event with their shorts and bright orange t-shirts. Their athletes are proud they are sent. They came last at the high jump and hurdles, which they say they would have won but they fell. They came last in the 400 meters and last in the swimming as well. They came last in the long distance running, though they say they might have come first. And they might if the other 61 teams hadn't put in a finishing burst. But each year they turn up regardless. They are popular in the parade. The other teams whistle and cheer them, aware of the journey they have made. For the Jungle Olympics in August, they have to set off New Year's Day. They didn't arrive the year before last. They set off but went the wrong way. So long as they try, there is a reason. After all, it's only a sport. They will be back next year to bring up the rear, and that's an encouraging thought. Now, we are actually going for a detailed discussion, so we can go stanza by stanza and we can find what actually the theme of the poem is. Okay, now all of you please take page number 104. Here we are going with the first part of the poem. Now look at the preface portion. Read the preface portion. Yes, I am going to read the preface portion. So please listen to me. Imagine an Olympics in which only animals, birds and insects participate. How do you think ants will fare in such a competition? So here it is asked that have you ever imagined an Olympics for animals? Have you ever imagined an Olympics in which only animals, birds and insects participate? If so, how do you think that ants will succeed in such a competition? Why such a specification is made in the case of ants? Yeah, we all know that ants, they are very small in their size. Yes, we all know that ants are physically weak than any other uh, insects. So, how the events do justice to them? Will they succeed in such a competition? Yeah, definitely. If ants are participating in a race with that of horse, eventually the success will be for horse. So the poet asks us, will it bring any victory for will it bring any victory to ants if they participate in a jungle Olympics? Okay. Anyway, here I am going with the first stanza. Look at the first stanza. I am going to read the first stanza. Listen. At last year's Jungle Olympics, the ants were completely outclassed. What do you mean by outclassed? Yeah, the meaning is given in your textbook. Yeah, outclassed means defeated easily. In fact, from an entry of 62 teams, the ants came their usual last. So the poet started his poem speaking about the previous year experience. He says that last year ants were completely defeated by other contestants. Actually, there were 62 teams, but as usual, ants came last in all the competitions. So this is actually the idea conveyed in the first stanza. So now we can move on to the second stanza. Here I am going to read the second stanza. Please do listen and read along with me. They didn't win one single medal. Not that that's a surprise. The reason was not for lack of trying, but more for their unfortunate size. The poet here concentrates on the fact that they didn't even secure at least one single medal in that previous competition. It acquires attention not because of any other thing than its reason. Yeah. It is only because of their unfortunate size. The poet here says that the unfortunate size is really the reason for their petty failures or petty continuous failures. Yeah, it is clearly said that the reason was not for lack of trying. It is not the lack of trying, or it is not the lack of try, but more for their unfortunate size. Yeah, it is not only because of their lack of trying, but it is purely because of their unfortunate size. Okay, so now we are moving on with the third stanza. So please listen. I am going to read the third stanza. While the cheetahs won most of the sprinting, what do you mean by sprinting? A race in which the people taking part run very fast over a short distance. While the cheetahs won most of the sprinting and the hippos won putting the shot. You all know what putting the shot. Yeah, the so-called sport item which we generally called as shot put. The ants tried sprinting but couldn't, and tried to put but could not. Here, the poet vividly picturizes the fact that each animal is proved successful at least in one item. Yeah, the cheetahs won the sprinting contest, and the hippos usually win in shot put. Unfortunately, either in sprinting or in shot put, ants couldn't prove themselves. And poet says that it is quite unfortunate, and this act of unfortune is typically because of their size. Now listen, here I am going with the fourth stanza. It was hard for the ants because they are sloggers. They turn out for every event. With their shorts and bright orange t-shirts, their athletes are proud, they are sent. Here, the poet is taking the side of ants. He says that it is really sad. Why he is sympathizing with ants? Who can say the reason? Or who can give me the answer? Why the poet is taking the side of the ants, or why the poet is sympathizing with ants? Yeah, if you look at the fourth stanza, you could easily find a particular word used there. Yeah, a word. Yeah, sloggers. What do you mean by sloggers? Sloggers means people who work hard and steadily at something. Ants here are described as sloggers. So, what do you mean by sloggers? Yeah, people who are working hard and steadily at something. So, the poet here says that ants are, yeah, hardworking people. So, even though they are hardworking, they are losing every time. That is what the poet is taking the side of ants. So, that is what the poet is sympathizing with ants. Yeah, yes. See, for example, imagine that imagine that A is a lazy student in your class, and if A is miserably failed in the recent monthly test, will anyone, especially your teachers, feel sad for A? No. Why? Yeah, because no one expects anything from A, simply because all know that A is not a hardworking student. But imagine that B is a very intelligent and hardworking student, and unfortunately, B became unable to secure good marks in the recent monthly test. Will anyone feel sad over B's poor performance? Yeah, definitely. Everyone, yeah, would feel sad over the poor performance of B. What is the reason? Because all know that B is actually a hardworking student. So everyone would definitely sympathize over B's poor performance. So here the same thing is happening here also. The poet is taking the side of the ants and sympathize with its bad luck. Why? Yeah, because they are sloggers. They are hardworking people. Even though they are hardworking, it is really sad that they are turning out for every event, or they are losing in every events. Okay. So this is actually the idea conveyed in the fourth stanza. Okay. Now I am going to read the fifth stanza. Please listen. They came last at the high jump and hurdles, which they say they would have won, but they fell. They came last in the 400 meters and last in the swimming as well. The poet goes on to say about their sad plight, the ants' sad plight. They failed in the high jump and in the hurdles too. And in hurdles, they were proud that they would win, but they miserably failed in that particular spot even too. And in 400 meters and in swimming also, they came at the last position. Okay, so this is actually conveyed through the fifth stanza. Now we are going with the next stanza. Here I am going to read the next stanza. Please listen. They came last in the long distance running, though they say they might have come first. And they might if the other 61 teams hadn't put in a finishing burst. Here in this stanza, it is said that they came last in the long distance running, even though they thought that they would have come first. So, in order to highlight their unfortunate plight, it is mockingly said that, yeah, they would have definitely come first if the other participants in the contest hadn't run fast. So, directly or indirectly, the poet says here that it is because of their size. It is because of their unfortunate size that they are not at all able to win in any contest. Okay, now we are going with the next stanza. Please listen, I am going to read. Please read along with me. But each year they turn up regardless. They are popular in the parade. The other teams whistle and cheer them, aware of the journey they have made. So here it is said that what Richard Dygans is saying here is that the ants are paying no attention even if there are difficulties. How many continuous failures they have received? They are not at all concerned it at all. Instead, they are waiting hopefully for the next chance. So, the other teams whistle and cheer them, aware of the journey they have made. Okay, so that is all about this stanza. Now we are moving on with the next stanza. Please listen. I am going to read. For the Jungle Olympics in August, they have to set off New Year's Day. They didn't arrive the year before last. They set off but went the wrong way. Here it is said that the ants have to begin. Have to set off means have to begin. The ants have to begin New Year's Day for the Jungle Olympics in August. But unfortunately, they missed the chance. In what way they missed the chance? Yeah, unfortunately, they missed the chance as they went the wrong way. They set off, they begin, but went the wrong way. So they have missed the chance by going the wrong way. Okay, so this is all about the present stanza. Now we are going with the last stanza. So I'm going to read the last stanza. Please listen. So long as they try, there is reason. After all, it is only a sport. They will be back next year to bring up the rear, and that's an encouraging thought. So what is actually the idea conveyed in the last stanza? So this last stanza could be regarded as the most important stanza in the whole poem, because through this stanza the poet is actually conveying the main point. The poet is actually conveying the central theme of this poem. Yeah, there is a particular word, that's an encouraging thought. Yeah, that's an encouraging thought. So the thing which mentioned here as the encouraging thought in the case of ants is actually the message of this poem, or is actually the central theme of this poem. Who can say what do you mean by the encouraging thought that the poet is revered here? Can anyone say? Okay, listen. Here the poet concludingly says that for a long period of time, from the beginning of this poem to the end of this poem, we heard that the ants are continuously participating in all the contests in every year. They are not winning anything, or they never win anything. So that is actually the thing we have to learn from their case. Okay, so for a long period of time they have been trying, and there is a reason. What is the reason? For a long period of time they have been trying. Definitely it is because of one reason, that it's a sport item. And as usual, the ants will be back next year also, and they will definitely be at the back position in all the contests they are participating. But that's an encouraging thought. What is the encouraging thought mentioned here at the end of the poem, or here at the concluding line? This is perhaps the message of the poem, as I mentioned right now. Yeah, here we have to learn one thing from the continuous failures of ants here. Yeah, what is that? Despite the difficulties or the failures, the efforts the ants continue to put in, that is actually praiseworthy or noteworthy here. Despite the difficulties or the failures, despite the difficulties or the continuous failures, the efforts that the ants continue to put in is quite motivating. And that is actually the encouraging thought mentioned here in this poem. So that is what I just mentioned right now, that from the beginning of the poem to the end of the poem, we can easily find that the ants are continuously participating in all competitions in every year, but they never win. But even though they never win, they are participating in every item. So that is really a motivating thing. In that way, ants could be stood for the symbol of perseverance. Thus, through the funny story of ants, poet here conveys the message that success is ultimately the result of perseverance. So this is actually the lesson the story of ants teach us. So that is actually the encouraging thought as referred in the poem itself. So even though the poem may seem as very simple, or even though the poem may seem as funny, or even though the poem may seem as unrealistic, it revolves around a very serious, and it revolves around a very valuable message that, yeah, despite the difficulties or the continuous failures, one should have the mental ability to continue the efforts until we achieve something, or until we attain our task, or until we attain our aim. So that is actually the lesson this poem is conveying. Okay, so now I hope that you understood the gist of the poem, or you understood the idea of the poem, or you understood the theme that Richard Dawkins is actually trying to convey through this poem. So hope you all enjoyed the poem and understood all the points which we discussed today in this class. So you have to write down all the unfamiliar words together with their meanings as given in the textbook into your notebooks, and you have to learn it thoroughly so that your vocabulary will be enriched automatically. Okay, anyway, please go to the question answer part and try to answer all the questions yourself. And if you have any doubt, you can ask me, or we can discuss all those doubts, or we can clarify all those doubts in the Zoom session after this week. Yes, because as you all know, this week we are actually conducting Zoom meetings, especially for revising the topics for monthly test. So on this week we are actually going with the revision portions for monthly test. So all the doubts regarding this chapter, this poem, will be clarified in the coming Zoom interactions. Okay, anyway, I think we can wind up here at this point. Anyway, thank you. Have a nice day.